Okay, so this may look, I don't know if we had that shaft off yesterday when we did the video or not. Okay, so I removed the shaft that houses all the rocker arms, and today I pulled all the injectors and cleaned all the cups out and installed new seals and also new retainers, injector retainers. They're updated ones, as you've seen in the previous video. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But it was very, very simple to do. You just use a pry bar, and the pry bar of choice that I use is this one here. So it has the adjustable head on it, and you can just I just set it like this, and you just sneak underneath. There's a spot on the injector just underneath of the spring. It's like the retainer for where the spring sits. And you just sneak underneath of there, and they pop out no problem. So, yeah, take all your bolts out, take your injectors out, clean everything, new seals. I inspected all the cups and made sure that they weren't worn funny or damaged or any of that stuff, so that was good. And then on installation, there's a bit of a torque procedure for the bolts that hold those retainers down. And the bolts are a one-time use. They're a torque to yield bolt, so you torque them down to 15 foot-pounds plus or minus 4 pounds. I did 17 foot-pounds, and then you got to give them a 180-degree turn. And then you need to back them off 100 degrees plus or minus 10 degrees. And then you should be around back to the 15 foot-pound mark, plus or minus 4 pounds, and then you give it a final 90-degree turn. So, yeah, there's a bit of a procedure to it. And then now all I'm gonna do here is I've got everything cleaned. There was like some dust and stuff on the cams and all that, so I gave that all a wipe down, clean everything, sucked all the oil out just to make sure, like all the oil that was sitting on the head, I cleaned all that out just to make sure there wasn't any more pieces or debris or anything like that. I want to make sure everything's clean. I have all of these bridge pieces that bridge the exhaust and intake cams, and I believe these are for your injector rockers. So all these came out. They're all labeled as per what cylinder they need to go to and also which order they're in. This little nub right here on the side, that faces towards the front of the engine. And then this sits like this. You just mark them if you're gonna take them out. And then these are the old retainers that I showed in yesterday's video.
Why do you think that one broke?
So it was improperly torqued. This is what I figure. Somebody had replaced injector number 4 and number 6. And when I went to go loosen the bolts off for these things, number 4 was already loose. So whoever torqued the bolts down either didn't replace them, didn't clean out the hole, and there was oil in the hole, or they didn't torque down properly and that bolt backed off, and then every ignition event or combustion event, the injector would just be trying to get forced out of its hole, right? So it would be hammering on this thing every time, and it just stressed it out until it fractured. So it's unfortunate. It's a new injector that's in there, so pretty much I had to clean out all the carbon because that piece broke, and the injector was now able to lift slightly. There was a bunch of carbon deposits all over that cup and all over the injector. Brand new injector in it, only like a year old, so it's unfortunate, but whatever. Everything cleaned up nice, and like I say, I inspected the cup thoroughly and everything, and it looked great, so cleaned up very nice. This is the shaft assembly that houses all the rockers, and I have just found some bolts that fit in these holes. There are 2 holes that are threaded for the special service tool that is to be used on this, but obviously We don't have that here, so we just make do with what we got. I have an engine leveler here and then just some chain. And I've just found some bolts, cut them, welded up a couple lengths of chain on there, and then I have just cut an appropriate length of chain so that I can get this thing rigged up. You can see I've zip tied everything together. In the service manual, I think I mentioned this yesterday, it says to use elastic bands to hold these together and also hold the there's little cups that I was showing you over there with the bridges that go on the I thought it was for the injector, but I guess it's for the exhaust valves. So I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's for the exhaust valves, exhaust intake injectors. So yep, basically just I took those out so they didn't fall out, zip tied everything together. These can still rotate around, but because they're zip tied, it puts a little bit of force on them this way, and they have a tendency to stay put, so it's good. Now I just have to, I'm gonna give this thing a wipe down. It's got some dust and dirt and crap on it, so this is gonna get a thorough cleaning, and the engine side of everything is all ready to go. The only thing I need to do is use my little flavor injector here that we got at the dollar store. If you don't have one of these and you're gonna get into some engine stuff, I recommend picking one of these up. They're cheap, and I just fill it up full of oil, and then I can go along and lubricate all the rollers. I can lubricate anything, any pivot points, all that stuff. So pre-lube, very important when you're going to assemble. You don't want things running dry. So clean this, I'm gonna lube everything and get those bridges on, and then this assembly is going to go back in. There is a torque procedure for all of these bolts that hold this shaft down to the engine. It actually bolts into the cam caps. It might go through the caps into the head, technically. But once again, any threaded holes in this head need to be cleaned out because they fill up with oil, and then you need to clean them out, because if you don't, and you go to torque the bolts down, there's a possibility of fracturing the cast head or whatever threaded portion that's going into, because the oil doesn't compress, and it's a lot of clamping force, and that oil has to go somewhere, so bad things happen. Or the bolt torques down and then it loosens back off because there's a bunch of oil in there. So lots of Q-tips is my solution, and for the majority of the oil to get that out, I use my brake bleeder. I just took the end off of it, and it fits perfectly into the holes. And I just go and suck all the oil out. And I go around to all the bolt holes. You can see I got my brake bleeder here. I have two hoses, one good hose for actually using it for brake fluid, and then this is the original crappy hose that's now brittle and hard, but it works great for sucking up oil and all that stuff. So gets in all the holes, especially these deep holes where the big long bolts that are like that secure that shaft, they go down in, and the Q-tips don't quite reach down there. Plus, you can only soak up so much oil with Q-tips, so you go through quite a few Q-tips. But as long as I get the majority of the oil out and clean it the best I can, that's the important part. One thing that I forgot to mention is I had to drain the coolant before pulling the injectors. That was a recommendation. Now, I believe so around the copper cups, I would have shown you, but it was throughout the day, I'm doing my work, right? But where the injector seats in these copper cups, there's a jacket that sits around that of coolant that keeps those cups cool, and or keeps the fuel warm, I guess, technically. I forget where I was going with that, but anyhow.
That's why you need to drain the coolant.
That's why I need to drain the coolant, but I didn't pull those cups out. I think the reason they want you to drain the coolant is because if you pull the cups out, the coolant can go into the cylinder and fill up the cylinders full of coolant, and that's bad. You don't want that. Also, you could get some cross-contamination into the fuel with coolant, and that's also not good. So that's pretty much it for now. like I say, I just got to get all this stuff back together and lubricated and assembled. And then the big torque procedure is the next big thing that's going to happen here. I was showing you this in the other video, but there's quite the procedure. And this also includes these camshaft bolts as well for on this side of the cam. So I'm guessing I can just leave those tight. I mean, technically they all should have been like detorqued in the pattern, but I've seen lots of guys not do it that way, so I'm just gonna do it this way. So if you have any questions, throw them down in the comments below, and hope you enjoy the video. We'll see you next time.